What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. We are back. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I want to speak on Keith Thurman against Tszyu. This was announced maybe somewhere in the middle of last week. Okay, and it's kind of random. I was hoping to see Tszyu fight a Jamel Charlo or like a Crawford. I wasn't really expecting Keith Thurman's name to even pop up at all. In no way, I don't think anyone could have ever predicted this. Anyone. And this is part of the PBC Amazon Prime rollout. This is going to be a pay-per-view. I don't know what it's going to be priced at. It's going to be on March 30th. It's going to be a pay-per-view. They have Rolly Romero fighting Isaac Cruz, Pitbull Cruz on the undercard. Sebastian Fundora is also fighting on that card. Super random, man. It's not that it's a bad fight. It's a bad fight based on the timing of it. Like, Keith has not fought. He has not been fighting at all, and Tszyu has been extremely active. I think he had 3 fights last year. Let me look it up real quick. He fought 3 times last year. And Keith Thurman, I love Keith and everything, but I mean, this doesn't seem right. This seems like a desperate kind of fight. Like, get me in there with someone, and hopefully they paid him well for him to take this kind of fight, but for him to go 2 years without a fight, and the last time he fought, he went 3 years without a fight. It's like he was inactive prior to the last few fights he's had, right? Like, if I think about it, before he fought Josecito Lopez and then fought Manny Pacquiao after, I think he was inactive for a couple of years before that. And then after losing to Pacquiao, he went 2 years or 3 to come back and fight Mario Barrios. And it's not like it was a bad performance, but I will say I expected more from Keith, being a career welterweight, fighting against a newer welterweight that had just got knocked out by a lightweight. But it's all good because Mario Barrios went on to stop Ugas recently. Like, he stopped Santiago, he stopped Ugas. So maybe Barrios is made to be a welterweight, at this point. He's proven himself well. So maybe it's just the weight. Maybe he didn't belong at 140 anymore. He was drained. And that's probably why he didn't perform better against Tank Davis. But that's neither here or there. Keith Thurman, again, has been inactive for 2 years. He's 35 years old now. And he's fighting a 29-year-old career light middleweight, right? And this fight is going to be at a catchweight of 155. Tszyu is now the WBO champ at 154. And the WBO refuses to sanction this fight, which makes a lot of sense. Keith is not even ranked or anything, But Keith, as far as his name and his experience and him being a former unified champion, you can make an argument that this is the most experienced and proven fighter that's on Tszyu's resume. So in that sense, it's not a bad fight because of what Keith was able to do. But he hasn't done anything recently. And you getting older and you're not being active is not a good thing, especially when you're the one that's moving up against one of the most dangerous punchers at 154. To me, Tszyu is the best fighter at 154 outside of Jamel Charlo. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because they haven't fought yet. I don't know what Jamel is doing. The last time I seen him was against Canelo at 168. And before that, he had a hand injury. He's inactive too. as a 154 fighter, we haven't seen him fight at 154 since Brian Castano. So I think this is a poor fight to start out the Amazon Prime deal. I was expecting a better quality matchup. Again, if Keith was actively fighting, if Keith was coming off the Sean Porter win at 147, or Danny Garcia win at 147, and then deciding to move up to fight Tszyu around 2018, 2019, I would say, you know what? This is not a bad fight for a guy that's moving up. I didn't have a problem with Terrence Crawford moving up to fight Tszyu because he already said he wanted to move up. He wanted to move up to fight Jamel Charlo for Undisputed because he wanted to be Undisputed at a different division. But Keith Thurman being extremely inactive, career played with injuries. He hasn't been knocking anyone out, right? You going up in weight, right? Let's be real. Like, not for nothing, but Keith Thurman, one time, it's been almost 10 years since his last knockout. That's crazy. I'm checking it now. Louis Collazo was the last guy he stopped. And that was a weird stoppage. It was very weird. You know, it's like a quit in a corner at a time where Collazo, the momentum was in his favor. The last time before that was Julio Diaz in 2014, 10 years ago. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, I think the timing of this is poor. And, you know, I don't know how much of a puncher Keith is going to be in this kind of fight. You know, Tszyu has been winning some really good fights against some really good fighters at 154. Brian Mendoza is legit. Brian Mendoza has proven to be more of a puncher than Keith Thurman at 154. You know, I mean, not for nothing. Keith is more established and more experienced, and he's fought more fighters, better fighters than Brian Mendoza. Overall, he's had a better career. But Brian Mendoza was the better matchup at that time than this one. And this is a pay-per-view. I feel bad for Keith. I feel bad for Stanionis. I feel bad for a lot of guys that has been inactive the last couple years because all of this mess going on at 147 and other divisions too. A lot of guys has just been sitting on a bench, and I you know what? Part of it is Keith Thurman's fault because I'm sure Thurman has had opportunities to fight elite fighters that he probably was asking too much money for. If it's true that he wanted $10 million to fight Crawford, then this is why he didn't get the Crawford fight. You know, I'm sure any guy, I'm sure Boots would have got in the ring with him. I'm sure, you know, Ortiz, when he was at 147, would have gotten in the ring with him, or Stanionis, or whoever. Keith Thurman is a guy that a lot of guys that's on the come up want to fight. But now you got stuck with Tszyu. Very dangerous fight. Keith can box. So I know most people are probably going to feel, like not most, but people that are supporting Keith on this one or backing him for this fight are going to believe that Keith can box and he can possibly outbox Tszyu. You know, I think Tszyu is still overlooked. You know, I still don't believe that people see that he can box. You know, I think they are not giving him the credit. You know, you should have saw that in the Tony Harrison fight, the Brian Mendoza fight. You know, I know Terrell Gauthier dropped him. You know, I know he's been dropped before. But in his most recent fights, it's been against some of the better fighters he's faced in his career. And he's performed the best in these specific fights. And I think that Keith Thurman fighting him right now, the chances of him winning is very, very slim. And the chances of him getting stopped in this fight are very, very high. Because Keith Thurman is not. I don't think Keith Thurman has the best for a guy that gets hurt to the body so often. All right, Barrios hurt him to the body. Pacquiao hurt him to the body. Lopez hurt him to the body. Sean Porter hurt him to the body. Louis Collazo hurt him to the body. All right, these are 5 fighters, and your past 6 opponents. Everybody outside of Danny Garcia, maybe, if he did, let me know. 5 of your last 6 opponents, and this is crazy because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those 6 opponents that I just named, 5 of them hurt Keith to the body, and the least recent fight out of those was in 2015. 6 fights since 2015? It's crazy. We're in 2024. 6 fights? That's crazy. Sean Porter fight was in 2016, y'all. That was 8 years ago. He fought Sean Porter 8 years ago. And he's only had 4 fights since that fight. At this point, I'm going to say it. If Tim Tszyu is to lose this fight, and I love Keith, and I wish him luck, but if Tim Tszyu loses this fight, that is a big upset. I don't know what the odds are, but Tim Tszyu should be winning this fight. Him losing this fight is exposure. Because you're fighting a 35-year-old guy that's fought 6 times in the past 8 years. Or 9 years, I'm sorry. And 4 times in the past 8. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Tim Tszyu should be looking for the knockout. I think the fight is going to be competitive in the first few rounds while Keith is fresh. But there's nothing in that Mario Barrios fight. And even though I think he looked solid, he fought at the pace that he wanted to fight. He didn't fight under pressure. He's going to fight Tim Tszyu under pressure the whole time. Against a guy that is bigger and punches harder. He punches harder than Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has not been one time. He hasn't knocked out anybody. He hasn't been a vicious puncher since he stepped up in opposition. Once he got the Sean Porter fight, the stoppages stopped. This is not Diego Chavez and Soto Carras, man. All right. Anyway, I'll do a breakdown eventually, but just the timing of this fight, the fact that this is a pay-per-view, it's ridiculous. I feel bad for Keith, but he probably didn't have that many options waiting this long. All right. But anyway, I'm out of here. You guys subscribe. Peace.